As the first pale light of dawn stretches gently across the sky, the medieval village lies wrapped in a blanket of stillness. The air is cool, touched by the faint scent of dew settling over thatched rooftops and damp earth. Somewhere, beyond the edge of the fields, a rooster stirs, not yet crowing, but rustling softly in its coop. The world is just beginning to wake. Inside a small timber-framed cottage, shadows dance faintly on the walls, long and soft, cast by the orange glow of a dying hearth fire. The embers have burned low through the night, but their warmth lingers. A faint crackle sounds now and then, as if the fire is breathing in its sleep. On the straw-stuffed bed, a family sleeps. Not deeply, not all at once. In the medieval world, sleep came in two halves. People drifted into the first sleep soon after sunset, when the sky darkened and candles burned low. This, first sleep, would last for several hours, until sometime around midnight. Then, quietly, the house would stir again. A few would rise, poke at the fire, whisper softly, or tend to a restless baby. Some might pray, or sit by the small wooden window, looking out into the moonlit village. Others would talk in hushed tones, sharing small thoughts that only come in the stillness between sleeps. Then, after an hour or two, the second sleep would come. A softer, deeper rest until dawn. This rhythm, strange to us now, was perfectly ordinary then. It suited the slower world, the dim candlelight, and the way life followed the sun. As the second sleep fades, a gentle quiet fills the house. The smell of smoke, straw, and wool hangs in the air. The mother stirs first, stretching her arms under the rough linen blanket. The air bites slightly at her hands. The cottage is cool, the warmth of bodies fading as night yields to morning. She rises, her bare feet brushing the packed earth floor, and reaches for her woolen kirtle, the soft tunic she wears every day. It's coarse, dyed with plant colors that have faded over time. A muted brown-green, the color of moss. She slips it over her linen shift, ties it with a cord at her waist, and wraps a simple kerchief over her hair. The children, still half asleep, curl deeper into the straw bed. The father stirs next, pulling on his rough hose and tunic, his movements slow and practiced. He yawns softly, rubs his face, and listens. Outside, the village is beginning to breathe. Somewhere, a wooden door creaks. A cow lowing in the distance breaks the quiet, followed by the gentle splash of water from a nearby stream. The first birds begin to sing, finches and sparrows, their songs weaving into the cool morning air. The woman takes a small clay jug and steps outside. The air smells of earth and hay, of distant wood smoke curling up from other cottages. The thatched roofs glisten faintly with dew. The sky is pale blue now, the sun not yet risen but hinting at gold behind the low hills. She walks toward the well in the center of the village. Her steps are soft, the path uneven, worn smooth by many feet. Around her, the village stirs. A door opening here, a quiet greeting there, chickens shuffling from coops. The sound of the bucket descending into the well echoes softly. A splash, a creak, and then the slow winding of rope. Water sloshes gently as she pours it into her jug, cool and clear. This will be for breakfast. To mix the porridge, to wash, to quench thirst after a night of dry air and low fires. Meanwhile, the smell of baking begins to drift through the air. In one corner of the village, the baker's fire has been awake for hours. He works in a small stone hut beside the main lane, where warmth and the aroma of fresh bread roll out through the open doorway. The loaves are dark and dense, made from barley or rye, sometimes with a little wheat if the harvest has been kind. The bread is heavy but comforting, meant to last through long days of work. A few villagers come quietly, carrying small cloth-wrapped bundles to trade for their share. There's no rush, no clatter. Only murmured greetings, the crunch of boots on dirt, and the rhythmic sound of dough being shaped and placed into the glowing oven. As the light grows stronger, the village fills with soft movement. Smoke begins to rise from chimneys. The blacksmith opens his door, but does not yet strike his hammer. That will come later, when the sun is high. For now, he tends his coals, breathing life into the embers with the steady pull of the bellows. The sound, a low, slow exhale, fills the air with a kind of rhythm, like a sigh that matches the heartbeat of the morning. A few cottages away, an old woman tends to her herbs. Her garden is small but tidy, filled with sage, thyme, and lavender. She moves slowly, her hands weathered, her basket light. The scent of herbs mingles with damp air, soothing and familiar. She plucks a few sprigs and murmurs to herself, words lost in the rustle of leaves. Inside the cottage again, the family gathers by the hearth. The woman stirs a pot of grain and water over the rekindled fire. The smell is mild and comforting, earthy, plain, sustaining. The children rub their eyes and sit close to the warmth. A few crumbs of bread are shared, dipped into the porridge, and eaten slowly. No one hurries. The day will be long, but it begins gently. Outside, the church bell rings. A single, slow note that echoes through the mist. It calls not only to prayer, but to the rhythm of life itself, marking the passing of time in a world that moves at the pace of footsteps and seasons. People begin to walk toward the small stone church. The path winds between cottages, across the open green, past the duck pond and the washing line where damp clothes sway lightly. The sound of the bell fades and returns, carried by the breeze. Inside the church, the air is cool and smells faintly of wax and old wood. Candles flicker gently, casting golden light on rough walls. The priest murmurs softly, his voice rising and falling like a lullaby in Latin, a language most do not understand, yet all find comforting in its repetition. A baby whimpers, a door creaks, a bench shifts, but mostly, there is quiet, a shared stillness as the sun finally rises outside, painting the world in gentle gold. When they leave, the village is fully awake. The fields stretch out before them silver with dew. Men and women take up their tools, hoes, scythes, baskets, and begin the slow, steady work of the day. Each movement is practiced, unhurried, almost meditative. The rhythm of life here has no sharp edges, only circles, of days, of seasons, of the steady turning of the earth beneath their feet. Meanwhile, the oddness of their sleep, that strange habit of two slumbers and a waking in between, feels perfectly natural. Some may even speak of their first dream, and their second dream, as if sleep itself were divided into chapters. Between those dreams, in the gentle quiet of midnight, they might have shared stories or prayers, or simply stared into the dark, listening to the night sounds of the village, the whisper of wind through thatch, the distant bark of a dog, the soft cluck of hens. It was a world without clocks, without glowing screens, without the rush of hours. Sleep, like life, moved in its own time, slower, softer, and deeply human. And so as the day begins in earnest, the world hums with quiet purpose. Smoke drifts lazily into the sky, mingling with the smell of baking bread and fresh, turned earth. Children chase one another through the grass, their laughter light and fleeting. The adults smile faintly, their eyes half on their tasks, half on the horizon, where the sun now stands golden and steady. The first part of the day has begun, gentle and calm. A world at peace with its rhythm, where even the strangest habits seem simply natural. When the village settles into night, it does so like the earth itself. Slowly, naturally, without effort. The world softens at the edges. Work ceases, light fades, and one by one, windows glow faintly before darkening again. The hum of life becomes a whisper, then a sigh. Inside each small home, the air grows still. The fire, once bright with the heat of cooking and warmth, burns lower now, glowing deep red beneath a blanket of ash. Shadows lengthen and merge. The sounds of the day, the creak of wooden wheels, the lowing of cattle, the distant murmur of voices, fade until only the soft crackle of fire remains. It is the hour of first sleep. Families lie close together beneath layers of wool and linen. The straw mattresses beneath them rustle faintly with every shift of movement. Outside, the night carries the scent of damp hay and cool soil, and the faraway hoot of an owl drifts through the stillness. The moon rises, pale and slow, above the thatched rooftops. Its light spills across narrow lanes, glimmers on puddles, and finds its way through the tiny gaps in shutters and thatch. Cats wander quietly between cottages, their paws soundless on the earth. The whole village breathes in rhythm, slow, even, peaceful. And then, time passes. The first sleep begins to fade, and in the middle of the night, a gentle stirring passes through the cottages like a shared dream. A fire is poked. Someone coughs softly. A door creaks on its hinge, It is not yet morning, only that curious time between sleeps, when waking feels light, almost dreamlike. In these quiet hours, many people rise for a little while. There is no rush, no urgency, only a soft awareness that it is time for the watch, as some called it. In one cottage, a woman sits by the hearth, wrapping her shawl around her shoulders. The firelight touches her face in flickering gold. She adds a small stick to the embers, listens to them hiss, and then leans back against the wall. Her husband, half awake, murmurs a question, a drowsy whisper, and she answers softly. They speak of small things, how the sheep fared that day, whether the hens laid enough eggs, or what herb shall dry tomorrow. It is quiet talk, low and simple, like the rustle of leaves in the wind. Elsewhere, another family wakes briefly. A child, thirsty, reaches for water from the wooden jug beside the bed. The mother, still half in dreams, pours a little into a clay cup. The sound of water, soft, clear, fills the silence for a moment. Then comes a faint sigh as the child drifts back toward sleep. For some, this middle hour is a time for prayer. The church called it matins, and even simple villagers knew it as a sacred pause. A moment to whisper to heaven before sleep returns. In dark churches, monks would rise and chant softly in Latin, their voices echoing through stone halls like waves upon a shore. The sound was low and repetitive, meant to calm the spirit rather than stir it. Outside those walls, the villagers might kneel beside their beds or murmur familiar words under their breath, their eyes half closed, minds already drifting toward dreams again. There are stories too, of lovers meeting in these hours. Quiet visits under moonlight, while the rest of the world slept. Or of mothers nursing babies, humming low songs that only the night would hear. It was a time outside of time, neither day nor night, filled with moments too small for history books, but vast enough to fill a life. Sometimes, these hours were spent in reflection. People thought about dreams. Not the kind of dreams we imagine, but the vivid, mysterious images that came to them during their first sleep. Dreams were important in the medieval mind, believed to carry signs, warnings, or blessings. A dream of water might mean change. A dream of light could mean protection. They would whisper these things to one another, trying to interpret them in the fire's faint glow. Some might step outside for a moment, wrapping a cloak tightly around their shoulders. The night air would touch their faces, cold and clean. The stars above would seem brighter than by day's memory, sharp and countless. The village, from outside, would look like a patchwork of shadows and faint glimmers. The soft orange of an ember here, a flicker of candlelight there. Dogs might stir but not bark, recognizing familiar footsteps. In the distance, an owl calls again, long and low. It is in these hours that the strangeness of medieval sleep feels most beautiful. This gentle intermission, this breathing space between rest and waking. Some scholars have written of this too, part sleep, first sleep and second sleep, as though it were a forgotten custom. But here, in the dark silence of the village, it feels perfectly natural. The body follows the rhythm of the world, the long dark, the soft pull of the moon, the slow cooling of the air. Back inside, a man might mend something small. A leather strap, a broken buckle. His hands move by habit more than sight. The fire light enough to guide him. His wife hums softly, spinning wool with fingers that seem to remember every motion without thought. The spindle turns slowly, catching glimmers of light as it spins. The sound is faint, rhythmic, a whisper of movement against the stillness. In another cottage, someone writes. A rare luxury. A bit of parchment, a piece of charcoal, perhaps a quill if they are fortunate. They jot down notes about the harvest, or a passage from scripture they are trying to remember. The letters are uneven, the ink faint, but the act itself is almost meditative. The scratching of the quill is a sound that feels ancient and soft, like rain against wood. And yet, despite these quiet stirrings, most of the village remains drowsy. The animals shift in their pens. A sheep sighs, a horse stamps a hoof. Somewhere, a baby cries and is quickly hushed. The rhythm of life continues, slow and tender. The middle night was also a time for tending the fire. An important ritual. A home's hearth was its heart, and letting it die completely was a small misfortune. So, Before returning to their beds, someone would always stir the coals, pile a few pieces of wood, and cover them with ash. The ash kept the embers warm until morning, ready to spark again. It was a simple act, but it carried comfort. The assurance that warmth would wait for them when they woke again. Sometimes, herbal remedies were brewed in these hours. Teas made from chamomile, valerian, or lavender, believed to calm the spirit and ease sleep. The scent of herbs steeping in water filled the air, mingling with smoke and straw, creating a perfume both earthy and sweet. It was said that a cup of warm herb water, before the second sleep, could invite gentle dreams and keep away nightmares. Gradually, the hours pass. The fire grows softer, conversations fade. The air feels heavier, filled with the hush that always comes before dawn. People lie back down, wrapping themselves once more in blankets and quiet. The second sleep comes easily, like a tide returning to shore. And in that second sleep, dreams deepen. They are slower, softer, filled with the rhythm of the world around them. The sound of rain on the roof might become the rhythm of hooves in a dream. The flicker of firelight becomes sunlight in another world. Everything blends and flows, unhurried. Outside, the sky begins to pale again, and the first rooster calls. Another day is waiting, slow, ordinary, peaceful. This was the strange and gentle pattern of medieval nights' two sleeps, a one world divided by stillness. To modern eyes, it seems odd. To them, it was simply life. A rhythm shaped by darkness and candlelight, by silence and breath. And as the stars fade into morning, the last dream of the second sleep fades too. A quiet end to another ordinary night in the soft, turning world of long ago. The world of medieval sleep was a world of texture. The creak of wooden frames, the scent of straw, the faint scratch of linen against the skin. To understand how they rested, we must move quietly through their chambers, as if stepping into a dream held in candlelight. The cottage, small and humble, holds the family's sleeping place close to its heart, beside the hearth, where warmth lingers through the night. The bed is not like ours. It is built of wood, roughly hewn by hand, its joints held together with pegs rather than nails. The surface creaks softly when touched, and the scent of oak or ash lingers faintly in the air. Across the wooden frame lies a mattress, stuffed not with feathers but with straw or reeds, what they called a palliasse. Each season, the straw would be changed, for it flattened and grew dusty over time. When fresh, it crackled lightly beneath the body, releasing a scent of dry grass and sunlit fields. On top of this, a layer of rough linen or wool provided a bit of softness. The people sleeping here are dressed in their shifts, simple garments of linen, cool in summer and warm in winter. They do not undress fully, for the night air is chill and modesty, even in darkness, runs deep. Children curl beside their parents, grandparents, if they live in the same household, rest nearby. The warmth of bodies, more than fire, keeps the room comfortable. Above them, the roof beams arch low, blackened by smoke from countless winters. Bundles of herbs hang drying from the rafters. Lavender, sage, rosemary. Their scents faint but constant, mingling with the earthy perfume of straw and wool. The faint crackle of embers gives the room its rhythm, a quiet pulse in the dark. Beside the bed, on a small wooden stool, stands a candle stub, or a shallow dish of oil. The wick smokes gently, its flame steady but dim. Candlelight in those days was precious, often made from tallow, animal fat, which burned with a scent both comforting and slightly acrid. Only the wealthier homes could afford beeswax candles, which glowed brighter and smelled of honey. For most, the flame was modest, enough to see by, to warm the heart, to hold back the dark just a little. The candle flickers, and shadows dance along the wall, soft, wavering shapes that seem alive, like silent companions keeping watch through the night. In some homes, the bed stands upon a simple platform, in others, it rests directly upon the earth, where warmth from the hearth seeps upward. Wealthier households, those of merchants or minor lords, might have finer furniture, carved posts, embroidered linens, feather, stuffed mattresses. Curtains of wool or heavy cloth could be drawn around the bed, trapping warmth and giving a sense of privacy. The fabric muffled sounds and turned the bed into a small world of its own. A chamber within a chamber, where the outside faded away. Imagine, for a moment, lying within such curtains. The air inside is warm, and faintly scented with wool and smoke. The candle's light glows softly through the fabric, turning it to a golden haze. Beyond, the world is hushed. The sounds of servants settling. The distant cry of a night bird, the soft groan of timbers in the cold. In humbler cottages, there are no curtains, no carvings, only a shared bed and quiet companionship. But even here, there is comfort. The closeness of family, the crackle of the fire, and the slow breathing of loved ones form a kind of lullaby. Sometimes, in the corner of the same room, a cradle rocks gently. A mother's hand rests upon it, moving it in a slow rhythm without waking herself. The baby sighs and dreams on. It was not uncommon for several children to share a bed, their small forms nestled together beneath a single blanket. The blanket itself might be woven at home from wool, heavy and rough but warm. Its weight is comforting, a gentle pressure that soothes the body after a long day's work. In winter, furs might be added, sheep, rabbit, or whatever could be spared. The smell of such a bed is rich and familiar: wool, smoke, straw, and the faint sweetness of herbs placed among the straw to keep away insects. Pennyroyal, mint, or tansy. The scent is not perfumed but natural, the smell of the earth and home. The act of preparing for sleep was simple but deliberate. Before lying down, the fire was banked, covered in ash to keep it alive until morning. A final prayer might be whispered, often the same one each night. God, give me good rest and guard me through the night. The words fall softly, like leaves. Then, the candle is pinched out, or the wick pushed into the melted tallow. Darkness comes not suddenly but gently, as the last glow fades. In that moment, the world becomes sound and touch. The creak of the bed, the rustle of blankets, the steady rhythm of breathing. In towns and cities, sleeping arrangements could be different but not less intimate. Space was scarce, and families often shared rooms with apprentices or servants. Beds were sometimes shared between people who were not kin, a practice that might seem strange now, but was simply practical then. The warmth of another body was valued, not questioned. Privacy was a luxury, and sleep was a communal act, part of the shared fabric of life. For travelers on the road, sleep came wherever it could be found. In inns, where straw pallets were spread across wooden floors, or in barns beside the animals. The sounds there were many: the shifting of hooves, the snuffle of a horse, the rustle of wings from nesting birds. Yet even there, under rough roofs and beside beasts, people slept soundly. They were used to the nearness of life, its noises, its smells, its warmth. The idea of solitude in sleep, of perfect silence and stillness, did not belong to this world. Here, sleep was part of the living rhythm, shared, imperfect, but deeply human. And when illness came, or winter nights grew long, candles might burn later. The room would glow softly, the flame trembling as drafts moved through cracks in the wall. Someone might rise to read a psalm, or to stir the fire for warmth. A neighbor might stop in, bringing a little broth or wine. The line between day and night was gentle, blurred. Not a wall but a tide that moved back and forth. Meanwhile, in great halls of castles, where lords and ladies slept, the air was colder but the trappings richer. Beds were vast, their posts carved with vines and angels, their canopies heavy with embroidered fabric. Servants laid out furs and blankets, placed warm stones beneath sheets to chase the chill. Yet even here, sleep followed the same old pattern. First rest, a waking, then second rest. The noblewoman might rise to pray by candlelight, her gown whispering across the floor. The lord might sit in silence, listening to the wind against the shutters, thinking of nothing at all. And when the candle was finally extinguished, darkness fell like velvet. Thick, soft, and endless. Only the faint glow of the hearth remained, a small reminder of the world still turning. The night deepened, and sleep came again. Slow and full, like the settling of snow. Outside, the stars wheeled silently overhead. The village, the castle, the field, all wrapped in the same stillness, the same great breath of rest. It is easy to forget, now, that darkness was once a living thing. Not something to banish, but something to share. It brought people together. It hushed the world. It gave space for dreaming. And so, In the faint light of candles and the scent of wool and wood smoke, the medieval sleeper drifted once more into the vast, unmeasured sea of dreams. Night in the medieval world was not silent, but its sounds were few, familiar, and soft. They wove together into a kind of living lullaby, a quiet tapestry of small noises and gentle movements, that filled the hours between first and second sleep. Imagine now the hush after sunset. The sky deepens from gold to indigo, then to black, dotted with cold stars that shimmer faintly above the thatched roofs. The village lanes, which during the day echoed with voices and footfalls, now lie still. The air cools. Smoke from evening fires drifts slowly upward, carrying with it the scents of wood, ash, and cooked grain. Somewhere, a dog barks, once, then twice, and then the sound fades into distance. The wind moves lightly through the reeds beside the stream, making a sound like soft breathing. In the barns, animals settle, hooves shift, hay rustles, and the faint, steady sound of chewing continues for a while before quieting completely. For those lying awake in their beds, the night is full of these little murmurs. A creak from the rafters as the wood adjusts to the cool air. The soft sigh of someone turning over in sleep. The faint trickle of water outside, or the rhythmic chirp of a night insect hidden in the thatch. These are not disturbing sounds. They are the sounds of life continuing, steady, unhurried, endlessly patient. The darkness itself feels thicker here, more complete than the night we know. With no streetlights, no lamps, no glow of distant towns, the world is truly black. The only light is that of the stars, the moon, or a candle's faint flicker. And yet, this darkness was not frightening to them. It was a familiar companion, soft enfolding, full of quiet secrets. Sometimes, when clouds cover the moon, the darkness becomes almost tangible, like velvet. The only light comes from the faint glow of embers, painting a soft orange halo on the floor. In that half-light, shapes blur, a chair becomes a shadowy figure, a hanging cloak seems to breathe. But the mind does not panic, it simply wanders, half dreaming, half awake. The smell of the night, too, is rich and subtle. It is the smell of the world resting, of smoke settling low to the ground, of damp straw and cool earth, of herbs drying above the hearth. In summer, the scent of flowers drifts through the open shutters. Wild roses, meadowsweet, or elder. In winter, the air carries a sharper scent, cold stone iron, the faint tang of snow. Sometimes, the breeze brings with it faraway smells. The faint trace of a neighbor's fire, or the musk of animals, or even, if one listens and breathes deeply, the faint salt of the distant sea. These scents mingle with the warmth of the home, forming a perfume that is not sweet, not harsh, simply true. The smell of living. The smell of rest. It is easy to picture the dreamer stirring, half awake, inhaling that mixture of wood and wool, and then letting it pull them gently back into slumber. Meanwhile, outside, the world continues its slow, quiet dance. The trees sway faintly. The branches sigh. Somewhere, a stream gurgles over stones, its voice never ceasing. If one could walk through the village at this hour, one would hear it breathing, not asleep, but resting, as though the earth itself were taking a long, deep breath. In the distance, sometimes, a church bell tolls the hour. Its sound is soft, carried on the wind, the metal tone muffled by the night air. It reminds those who stir between sleeps that time is still passing, though it feels unmeasured. The bell's song fades, leaving behind a hush even deeper than before. Inside, the sleepers dream. Their dreams are slow and vivid. Not stories with beginnings and endings, but drifting images half-formed and glowing. A field of golden grain beneath a summer sun. A winding path through misty woods. The face of someone remembered, smiling faintly before fading into shadow. Dreams, in the medieval world, were thought to come from many places. From the soul, from angels, from humors of the body, or even from spirits that whispered through the night. People did not dismiss their dreams, they pondered them, spoke of them softly in the morning, and searched for meaning in their shapes. A dream of light was often seen as a blessing. A dream of water might mean a journey to come. A dream of music was rare and cherished, believed to carry divine harmony. And so, when they lay half awake between their two sleeps, people often turned these dreams over in their minds, like smooth stones in the hand. The candlelight might glow faintly, painting shifting patterns on the wall. And the dreamer would drift again into that space, where thought and vision blend. The night had its own rhythm. A kind of breathing that moved through everything. The crickets, the wind, the fire, even the slow beating of a sleeper's heart. All of it flowed together, creating a harmony that was neither loud nor silent, but endlessly steady. If you listened closely, perhaps you could hear the faint rhythm of a spinning wheel in a nearby house, or the quiet murmur of two voices speaking in low tones. These sounds, too, are part of the night's music, soft notes in a melody of rest. There were few things to disturb the peace. No rumbling carts, no clatter of machines, no rush of distant traffic. Only the slow, eternal sounds of the earth itself. It was a quiet so deep that the smallest noise, the flutter of a bird's wings, the drip of water from a roof beam, could seem enormous. But rather than breaking the calm, these sounds became part of it, blending into the vast hush that filled the hours between midnight and dawn. Sometimes, rain would come, gentle, slow, steady. It would patter softly against the roof, seeping through thatch in tiny droplets that fell into buckets left to catch them. The scent of rain on earth, fresh, damp, clean, would fill the air. Children would stir in their sleep, pulling the blankets closer. Adults might murmur softly, comforted by the sound. Rain was life, after all. It meant the fields would drink, the wells would fill, the grass would grow green again, and sometimes, snow would fall. In those nights, the silence deepened even further, so thick it seemed to press against the ears. The world outside became a soft white dream, muffling every sound. Even the dogs were quiet then, and the bells of the church seemed distant, wrapped in wool. Inside, fires burned brighter, candles flickered more warmly, and families huddled closer, whispering until they slept again. It was in these nights that the medieval world seemed most peaceful. The long, unbroken quiet of a world without haste. Dreams flowed gently, without urgency, without noise. And when morning came, it came slowly. A faint graying of the sky, the sound of a single bird calling, the rustle of straw as someone stretched and yawned. The dreams dissolved like mist. The candle stub, now cold, sat beside the bed. The ashes in the hearth stirred faintly as the first breeze of dawn entered through the shutters. The sleeper's eyes opened. But they did not rush to rise. For a moment, they lingered between worlds. The world of night, with its whispers and scents and small sounds. And the world of day, bright and clear and full of work. It was a gentle passage, like waking within a lullaby. And so the night, with all its tiny voices and ancient rhythms, passed quietly into morning, leaving behind the calm, dreamlike memory of darkness, of warmth, and of endless, breathing peace. Morning does not come suddenly in the medieval world. It begins as a faint silver glow, a suggestion more than a sight, spreading gently through the darkness. The stars fade one by one, as though bowing out before the day. The last embers in the hearth blink softly, red fading to gray. And in that hushed in-between, the village seems to hold its breath. Inside the cottage, the air feels different now, cooler, but lighter. The scent of the night's fire lingers, mingled with the faint sweetness of straw and wool. A rooster calls somewhere beyond the window, long and proud, his voice echoing through the stillness. Then another answers and another, until the morning is threaded with their calls. The first to wake is often the mother. Her movements are slow, careful, mindful not to disturb those still in their second sleep. She sits up, draws her shawl around her shoulders, and listens for a moment. To the fire's sigh, to the distant hum of the world returning. Then she rises. The floor beneath her feet is cool and firm, beaten earth smoothed by countless steps. The ashes in the hearth are gray and soft beneath her hand as she stirs them, searching for the living embers hidden below. A small spark glows, faint but steady. She feeds it with slivers of wood, blowing gently until the flame wakens, orange, flickering, alive again. Light begins to spread through the cottage, first from the fire, then from the small wooden window, where the first rays of dawn filter through. Dust motes drift in the air like tiny spirits, catching the glow and dancing lazily in the warmth. She moves quietly through the small room, pulling on her woolen kirtle, wrapping a cloth around her hair. From a peg on the wall, she takes a small clay jug, smooth from years of use, and steps outside. The air greets her, crisp, damp, fresh. The scent of grass heavy with dew. The faint smoke of distant fires being kindled in other homes. The soft coo of pigeons nesting beneath the eaves. The world is awakening, but still softly, as if not to startle the day. She walks the worn path to the village well, her steps making no more sound than the brushing of skirts. Around her, other doors open. A few figures appear, wrapped in shawls, carrying jugs and pails. Their quiet voices blend with the creak of rope and bucket as the first water of the day is drawn. The sound, splash, pull, pour, is steady and calming, a kind of morning hymn. The water is cold, clear, and shining faintly in the light of dawn. She lifts it, steady and careful, the jug heavy in her arms, and walks back home, the cool air touching her cheeks. Inside, the hearth crackles more warmly now. The man of the house has woken, stretching, rubbing his eyes, and sitting up slowly. The children stir beside him, yawning and murmuring softly, their hair tousled from sleep. The smallest one pulls the blanket closer, blinking at the light, still half in dreams. Breakfast begins, not grand, but comforting. The woman pours water into a pot of coarse oats or barley, stirring it slowly over the fire. The smell of porridge fills the air, earthy, mild, familiar. A loaf of bread from the previous day is set near the warmth to soften. The man mends a strap, his hands slow but sure. The children whisper to each other, their voices light. When the porridge thickens, she ladles it into wooden bowls, adding perhaps a touch of honey or milk if there is any to spare. They eat quietly, each mouthful warm and grounding. There is no hurry. Only the steady rhythm of spoons, and the occasional soft murmur. Outside, the first sunlight spills across the village green. It touches the tops of thatched roofs, glows on the leaves of the trees, and makes the morning mist shimmer like silver thread. Birds flutter from branch to branch, chirping softly, testing their voices. The church bell tolls once, twice, then 3 times, slow, measured, calling the village gently into the day. The sound carries through the air, echoing faintly against the hills. To the people, it is as familiar as breath. It marks not only the time for prayer, but the shape of their lives. After breakfast, the mother washes the wooden bowls with sand and cool water, setting them by the door to dry. The father gathers his tools. A hoe, a small sickle, a basket, and steps out into the yard. The morning air is full of movement now. Chickens cluck and scratch at the earth. A cow lows softly, waiting to be milked. Somewhere, a cart wheel creaks as it turns along the lane. The children run outside, their feet bare against the grass, laughter quiet but free. One chases a butterfly. Another kneels to poke at a puddle, watching ripples spread like tiny circles of light. The smell of baking drifts from the baker's hut at the end of the lane. Dark bread, heavy and rich. In the distance, thin lines of smoke rise from other cottages, gray against the pale blue sky. Each one tells of life, of fire, of warmth, of another family beginning their day. A few women gather by the stream to wash clothes. The sound of water slapping against linen joins the murmur of their voices. They speak in low tones, about the weather, about a calf born in the night, about nothing of great importance. The rhythm of their work is soothing: wet, scrub, rinse, wring, repeat. The sun climbs slowly, lighting the rippling surface of the water like 1,000 small mirrors. The men, already in the fields, walk among furrows of dark soil. The scent of earth rises fresh and strong beneath their feet. They move slowly, methodically, each action measured by years of habit. The sound of hoes striking soil, of footsteps, of rustling leaves fills the air like a gentle percussion. Meanwhile, in the church, the priest begins the morning service. The door stands open, letting in the cool air and the sound of birds. His voice rises softly, chanting Latin phrases that few understand, but all find comforting. The notes echo gently against the stone walls, blending with the sound of the breeze. Candles flicker, their flames steady and golden. The faint scent of wax and incense lingers in the air, sweet, smoky, holy. Outside, the bell rings again. The sound rolls across the fields, mixing with the songs of birds and the faint hum of work. The day has begun, but its pace remains slow, deliberate. unhurried. Every movement has weight. Every sound belongs. By mid-morning, the sun warms the rooftops, and the mist lifts from the ground. The village is alive now, but still quiet in its own way. The rhythm of daily life has begun its steady hum. A rhythm older than memory, simple and sure. And beneath it all, though unspoken, remains the memory of the night. The long rest, the soft dreams, the hush of candlelight. The villagers carry that peace with them into the day, like warmth beneath their skin. The strange sleep of two parts has ended, but its calm lingers, flowing gently into morning. Every dawn is the same, yet never the same. Each one carries the quiet miracle of waking, of breath, of work waiting patiently to be done. And as the sun climbs higher, the sounds of the world, the clatter of buckets, the low hum of bees, the soft murmur of human voices, blend together until they form a music of their own. The medieval morning is not hurried, not loud. It unfolds slowly. Like a page turning in an old book, each line illuminated by the soft light of the sun. And the people, bound by the earth and by time, move gently through it, steady, peaceful, and untroubled. As the morning deepens, the sunlight spreads fully across the village. It touches the edges of thatched roofs and glows upon the damp cobblestones, drawing faint steam where dew lingers. The air warms, not quickly but with patience, like a kettle beginning to hum before it boils. The people move through this gentle brightness, as if guided by an invisible rhythm. It is not the rush of clocks or the pull of schedules, but something older, the quiet order of nature itself. The sun decides, the shadows answer, and life flows between them. The men work in the fields beyond the village, their forms moving slowly against the landscape. From afar, they seem like pieces of the earth itself, steady, rooted, calm. The soil is dark and damp beneath their feet, the scent rich and comforting. The rhythmic sound of hoes striking earth mingles with the rustling of grass and the distant song of larks. Some tend to sheep along the hillside, their calls echoing softly as they guide the animals. The bells around the sheep's necks chime faintly, a small, musical conversation between shepherd and flock. Others mend fences, or stack hay, or walk behind oxen as they pull wooden plows through the soil. The creak of the yoke, the slow breath of the animals, the crunch of dirt under boots, all blend into the steady rhythm of the day. Back in the village, the air is filled with gentler sounds, the tap of a spindle turning, the scrape of a wooden spoon against a bowl, the faint, steady thump of a weaver's shuttle passing through loom threads. A woman sits near the doorway of her cottage, spinning wool. The sun catches the fibers in her hands, making them shimmer like strands of morning mist. Her fingers move without hurry, twisting, drawing, winding, the motions so familiar that they require no thought. She hums softly to herself, a tune with no beginning and no end. In another cottage, an older man shapes wood with a small knife. He sits on a stool beside the open door, carving the smooth handle of a tool. The shavings curl like ribbons at his feet, pale against the dark earth. The scent of fresh wood lingers, clean, warm, alive. A few children sit nearby, watching with sleepy curiosity. They trace patterns in the dirt with sticks, whispering about nothing in particular. A bird they saw, a shiny pebble they found. Their laughter is quiet and short-lived, as if even joy must keep its voice soft here. The hours drift by. The sun climbs. The shadows shorten. Around midday, the air becomes still. The breeze fades. Even the animals seem to pause, birds settling in trees, dogs curling in the shade, cattle lowering their heads and standing quiet. It is the time for the midday rest, the calm that divides morning from afternoon. In the fields, men lay down their tools. They sit beneath trees or along the edges of hedgerows, opening small bundles of food wrapped in cloth. A piece of bread, a wedge of cheese. Perhaps a few onions or apples if the season is kind. They eat slowly, without talk, looking out across the fields they've shaped with their hands. The world feels wide and still. The only sounds are the whisper of wind in the grass, and the faint buzzing of flies. Some men close their eyes and drift into short naps, not deep sleep, but something gentle and floating. This habit, too, belongs to their world. Small pockets of rest scattered through the day, as natural as breathing. In the village, women take their own quiet pause. A pot of stew simmers low over the fire, its scent thick and comforting, herbs, onions, bits of barley, perhaps a bone or two for flavor. The sound of bubbling broth fills the room, low and steady, like a slow heartbeat. A child naps in the corner, curled against a bundle of wool. A mother's hand rests lightly on their back, rising and falling with each small breath. Beyond the open window, the world hums faintly. Bees drift lazily among wildflowers. A wood pigeon coos from a distant branch. The warmth of the day wraps everything in a kind of soft haze. Time feels different here. Not measured, but experienced. Each hour stretches, quiet and full, like a long note held by the world itself. When the bell in the church tower rings again, its sound floats gently through the air. It signals the passing of noon, but also something more. A reminder that all things move in circles, work and rest, waking and sleep, light and dark. As the sun tilts westward, life stirs again. The men rise from their shaded resting spots and return to their fields. Their pace remains unhurried. The work is not done to end, but simply to continue, one furrow at a time, one task leading softly into the next. In the cottages, looms clatter once more. Threads cross and tighten. Patterns grow slowly, like vines on a wall. A woman hums as she works, her voice blending with the sound of the shuttle's soft percussion. Children return to play, chasing shadows across the grass, their bare feet silent. A few women kneel by the stream again, rinsing vegetables in the clear water. The surface ripples, glinting with sunlight. The world feels full yet peaceful. A balance of movement and stillness. As afternoon fades, the light begins to soften. It slips from bright gold to a mellow amber, touching everything it meets. The curve of a jug, the edge of a wooden door, the folds of a woolen sleeve. Dust motes drift through the air like tiny stars, slow and weightless. The day begins to loosen its hold. In the fields, the men gather their tools. They pause a moment to look at the sky. Pale blue deepening to gray, streaked with thin wisps of cloud. The scent of the evening rises from the soil, cool and damp. The sound of birds returning to the hedges fills the air, soft and rhythmic. The oxen move slowly toward the barn. Their heavy steps steady and calm. The sound of bells clinking around their necks follows them all the way home. In the village, smoke curls once more from every chimney. Fires are rekindled, their glow spilling out through open doorways. Inside, the air fills with the scent of bread baking, of stew thickening, of wood and warmth. The bell rings again, slower this time, its tone deep and resonant. It calls not for work but for rest. One by one, people set aside their tasks. The spindles stop turning. The looms fall silent. The knives and chisels are laid carefully aside. The rhythm of the day has played its gentle song, and now it fades, note by note, into quiet. The light outside dims further, the horizon blushing briefly before surrendering to dusk. The first stars appear, small and shy. The air cools. The scent of grass sharpens. In the cottages, candles and rushlights are lit, one here, one there. Their flames flicker softly, painting walls with golden light. Shadows sway in rhythm with the flame. The world feels smaller now, but not lonely, enclosed, safe, and slow. Families gather for supper. The meal is humble bread, pottage, perhaps a bit of cheese or dried fish. They eat together in near silence, speaking only in murmurs. Outside, the sounds of the evening. The rustle of leaves, the lowing of cows, the distant call of an owl, drift through the night. When the bowls are emptied and the fire burns low, they sit quietly for a while, letting the warmth sink into their bones. The children yawn, their eyes heavy. The grown ones look into the flames, not thinking of much at all, just watching the fire's slow dance. Meanwhile, outside, the world grows darker still. The moon rises pale and full, laying a silver sheen across the fields. The roofs gleam faintly, and the village paths shimmer like threads of quiet light. Soon, it will be time again for sleep, the gentle descent into dreams that waits beyond the threshold of candlelight. But not yet. For now, the day sighs its last, and the people breathe in unison with it. Calm, content, unhurried. The last light of day fades gently, not as an ending, but as a kind withdrawal. Like a guest taking their leave with a small, knowing smile. The western sky glows for a while, painted in long strokes of rose and amber, before deepening into violet. Then, one by one, the colors dissolve, leaving behind a tender blue, gray quiet. The fields grow dim, the trees stand still. And in the small village, the day folds itself away, carefully and without haste. Inside each cottage, the fire glows low. A single heart of orange light pulsing in the hearth. Its soft crackling fills the silence, like the world whispering to itself. Shadows move slowly across the walls. The faint scent of smoke, warm and earthy, lingers in the air. The sounds of the world change. The chatter of daytime fades, replaced by gentler notes. The hoot of an owl from the churchyard. The rustle of straw as animals settle in their stalls. The faint creak of timber as the house shifts in the cool night air. A woman bends to rake the ashes in the hearth, tucking them close around the embers, so that a small spark will survive till morning. She places a pot of water near the edge of the fire, in case anyone wakes thirsty in the dark. Her movements are slow, steady, and familiar. She has done this every night for as long as she can remember. And so had her mother before her, and her mother's mother before that. Her husband sits quietly by the light of a small candle, mending a strap, or perhaps just watching the flame. His eyes are soft with tiredness. The candlelight flickers against his face, painting it in gold and shadow. The children, already half asleep, lie bundled together on the wide bed built against the wall. Their breaths rise and fall in small, uneven rhythms. One murmurs in dreams, and another turns, sighing softly. A cat curls beside the hearth, its fur gleaming faintly in the firelight. The gentle sound of its purring fills the small room with warmth. The woman straightens slowly, rubbing her hands on her apron. She glances toward the door, closed now, barred against the night, and listens. Outside, the air hums faintly with silence. The world seems to have settled into its own kind of rest. From beyond the cottage walls comes the distant toll of the church bell. Slow and low, its voice drifting across the sleeping fields. It marks the late hour, but there is no rush in its sound. Each note feels round and soft, suspended in the cool air. The man sets aside his work. The candle flickers as he leans forward to blow it out. For a moment, it flares, bright and golden. Then fades, leaving only a thin wisp of smoke that curls upward and disappears into the darkness. The room is now lit only by the faint glow from the hearth. The fire, nearly spent, gives off a dim red light, enough to show the outline of faces, the curve of a shoulder, the soft weave of linen. They lie down together, drawing the woolen blanket close. The mattress beneath them is stuffed with straw and rushes, the scent of dried grass rising faintly as they settle. Sleep does not come all at once. It drifts in slowly, like mist moving across a field. They whisper small things to one another. A name, a soft word of thanks, a good night. And then the silence returns, thick and gentle. Outside, the moon has risen higher. Its light spills across the roofs, silver and calm. It glows on the stones of the church, on the still surface of the stream, on the sleeping animals in their pens. Somewhere, a dog barks once, softly, and then all is still again. The village lies in a cradle of quiet. Each cottage, each hearth, each heart rests within the same rhythm. A slow breathing that belongs to the night itself. In one house, a mother wakes briefly. Not from noise but from habit. She listens. To the calm, to the creak of rafters, to the faint sigh of the wind. She rises just enough to look toward the children, their faces peaceful in the dim light. She smiles, small and tired and content, then lies back down again. The night deepens. The stars, countless and patient, burn softly overhead. Their light travels across centuries to rest here, on this small, quiet place, where time moves differently, where the moments between waking and dreaming blur into one. And somewhere, in the dark corners of the world, the curious habits of medieval sleep play out again. A farmer stirs after his first sleep, his mind calm, unhurried. He sits up, stokes the embers, and watches the soft red glow return. For a little while, he stays awake, not to work, but to think or pray, or simply be. The night, after all, is long. It holds room for waking and for resting, for thought and for dream alike. He murmurs a quiet prayer, not in haste, not with fear, but with the ease of someone who knows the rhythm of the dark. Then, when the fire settles once more and his thoughts drift toward silence, he lies down again, Sleep returns, his second sleep, and this time it is deeper, slower, more complete. Outside, the moon slips behind a thin cloud, dimming the light across the fields. The air cools further. The sound of the world grows softer still, until only the faint whisper of wind remains. One by one, the candles burn out in every home. The last glow of the fires fades, and darkness takes gentle hold. Yet it is not an empty darkness. It feels full of breath, of dreams, of quiet life continuing unseen. The people rest, and the village rests with them. The earth beneath them breathes in rhythm. The trees sway lightly in the breeze. Even the stars seem to pulse in slow unison with the sleeping world. In the stillness, time loosens its hold. Hours pass without notice. Dreams weave their soft, tangled stories. Of fields and rivers, of familiar faces, of places half remembered. And when at last the eastern horizon begins to pale, it will all begin again, as gently as before. The first bird will sing. The first fire will crackle. The first steps will sound on the path to the well. And once more, life will rise softly into morning. The medieval world turns not with speed, but with peace. A quiet rhythm that carries from dawn to dusk, from sleep to waking, and back again. And somewhere, under the soft glow of the fading moon, another candle burns low beside another bed, marking the end of another quiet, beautiful day.